actually, if you really look at the next wave of mobile, it started with PC, mobile phones, tablets. The next wave is going to be all about wearables. Computers are getting smaller. There is more power on your wrist today than what was in phones, on some phones a few years back. And I think as the market expands, there will be millions and millions of people with wearable devices of all kinds, whether it is watches, necklace, rings, etc. At Goqii, the vision we had was, it is not about the hardware, but around the services around the wearable, which actually makes a difference. So if you look at Goqii, we actually give our band away for free.
Okay.
Because the model is, we don't make money here. What you actually pay for is a coach or subscription to use a coach who analyzes your data, tells you what to do, and really makes you and motivates you to become fit. And that is really the value. So if you really look at what Goqii is trying to do, is build a service ecosystem around the large wearable ecosystem.
Okay, so when you talk about the whole service ecosystem, we already know that Samsung is holding the lion's share, 34% of the market of this. Apple is going to come now, and obviously there are a few other players also, like Xiaomi and all. They're also venturing into this startup. What is there for a startup, for a small scale startup in this space?
So as I said, right, you need to look at wearable as a platform. So just like mobile was a platform and people were building apps on it and services on it, there was Uber, there is Ola, there is WhatsApp.
Exactly.
So all these apps were built on mobile devices. Suddenly now, think of a mobile device on your wrist.
Okay.
What will be the apps on top of this? What will be the services on top of this? What will be the use cases? Okay. So I think people need to look at original applications. It's not just about porting and having your app also run on the device. That's not how it's going to work. It's like, you know, people who are making PC applications, first they thought that mobile may have to do nothing. There just needs to be a browser and people will access it. But it was quite well known that that doesn't work.
Correct.
Similarly, on wearables, there is going to be a huge focus around native apps and native services. And we are actually among the leaders who are pioneering this, and I think a lot of companies will follow that.
All right. So, but when you talk about the whole services over here, as you said, we need to understand that all these devices, the wearable, they are highly dependent on the mobile phones, smartphones. How do you see this particular growth? Because down the line, let's say 2 years, 3 years, do you see that wearable device would be available, standalone device, they would be available?
What I'm telling you is that in a few years, mobile phone may not be there.
All right.
People will be roaming around with their wristwatch or something, which will be a device they would actually use to even talk and communicate. So just like PC is no longer a mainstream device for a lot of people, similarly, I think I would say that wearables are going to bring a completely new spectrum of usage. And Qualcomm and all other companies, Intel, chipsets, which are going to make your wearable devices independent. So they will have their own radio, so you may not even need to pair them with a phone.
So when you say that it is probably going to replace, or the right word would be probably they may eat up quite a big amount of share of the smartphones. How big do you see this particular market in the next 2 to 3 years?
I mean, 2 to 3 years, I mean, let me say in the next 3 to 5 years. 2 to 3 years is
probably
if you look at all estimates, they are saying that there will be around 500 million wearable devices in the market. Globally. Okay. So I would say that this ecosystem may actually even become bigger than the mobile ecosystem.
All right. So, and this devices, what we're talking about in India specific, how big this market could be in next 5 years?
I mean, just look at our mobile population, right? I mean, we'll soon have 1 billion people with mobile phones. And even if 10% of them start adopting to this, that's 100 million users. So the market is very, very large. And forget about that, right? Think of every person who wears a watch. Soon they will now be wearing a smartwatch.
Correct.
So apart from telling time, your watch will be able to do a lot more things, or a band for that matter. So the entire area is going to be disruptive with all the stuff going around.
So but when you talk about a smartphone, because as you said that there will be lots of smartphone penetration is already there. But in India, if you see, as of now, close to like 100 million devices are there. And again, if you see about the mobile app penetration, that is hardly 14%. And these devices are, as of now, or I believe next 2-3 years, it will be still be dependent on devices, on smartphones. So the smartphone penetration is very low in India. And then we are talking about wearable devices. How exactly you are planning to make a balance in that?
So first of all, as I said, right, the consumers are much more faster in adopting new things than us. For example, an auto rickshaw driver went from not using a PC or a laptop directly to using Android. So similarly, a lot of our customers are going to make jumps. So don't, just because they have not used a smartphone before or not used data before doesn't mean that they will not adopt tomorrow.
Correct.
So the adoption rate is very, very fast here.
Okay.
And which is why I believe as price points go lower, clearly this is going to be very, very mass.
So you mean to say there's enough room for the other startups also in this place?
No, I mean, as I said, there is, forget room for other startups. I'm saying the big thing is going to be how do you leverage the ecosystem? How do you make apps and services around this and on top of this? And of course, there will be hardware plays where you can innovate. So I would say that this is the one area where you could innovate on hardware, software, application services as well as ecosystems. So it's a very, very interesting times to be in this space, and we are very excited about it at Goqii.
Exactly. And as a Goqii, what is the biggest challenge you see in this particular market?
I would say the biggest challenge is awareness, especially in a market like India. US, already there are millions of people who are on Jawbone and Fitbit. They have been in the market much longer. In India, we are educating the customers on what this is. And I think once Apple launches and with Samsung's launches coming on, I think there's going to be a mass market awareness of this category, which is going to help everybody.
Okay, and how exactly you're going to play the price role in India, because India is generally known as a very price sensitive country.
So well, we give our hardware for free. Now you can't beat free.
But how about services? I believe your services are available at a cost.
So right now we give a 6-month plan and a 1-year plan, but you never know, we will be launching even smaller plans for that. But as I said, right now we are still developing the ecosystem. Once the ecosystem matures, you will be seeing a lot. I mean, we are not even a year old. I mean, we are just learning a lot of these things. But the good news is Goqii is not just doing this in India. I mean, we are pioneering this worldwide. So our launch in UAE is expected to happen anytime soon. We're launching in the US, we'll be launching in UK, Singapore. So the other interesting part is that it is not an India play for anybody. I think it's a global play. And if you are right now thinking of building services or products which are hyper local, I'm not saying it's bad, but in the early days of the market, especially in wearables, there's an opportunity to play a bigger global role, which is what we are doing.
All right. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks for your time.